Okay, so in the previous session, we discussed about how to execute the test cases. So we talked about first test case, we executed the first test case, and we wrote the actual results. And then whenever your expected and actual results are matching, we will say that test case is passed. Whenever my expected and actual results is not matching, then we will say that test case is failed. Till this point, we discussed. Now we are done with the first test case, and also second test case also we discussed about like advanced search. Like what you can do is you can go to your advanced search in your application, and then you can check your functionality, advanced search functionality, by using your test cases. So this is called your actual testing. That means what you are doing is you are taking each and every test case and go to the application, see that how that is implemented in your application. If it is implemented as expected, then we will say that test case is passed. If there is any deviation in your expected and actual results, then we will make the test case as fail. Whenever the test case is fail, then your defect life cycle will comes into picture. That we will talk about the defect life cycle in some time. So this is your advanced search. Now what I did is yesterday, like I took test cases here and then I executed my test cases, and then my couple of test cases fail, like application is allowing that future date search, and then application is allowing that from date which is more than 2 date. So this, because of these two reasons, I failed my test case. So my next test case, this is also your advanced search with invalid data. That means like if you are using your invalid date, say for example, if you are using your future dates, then you should get a proper error message. But you are not getting any message. Here just write page is refreshing. So what I will do is, that means if you go here and if you try here, say for example, if you try for your future dates, see, even though I'm not selecting any 2 date, still I'm not getting any error message. You can see that. See, there is a lot of defects here. So even though you are selecting like future date, still it is allowing. So what I will do is, I'm not getting any error message here, right? So I will write my expected result, actual result is page just refreshing. Page just refreshing. So what do you mean by that? My test case is failed. That means, right, whenever your expected and actual results are not matching, then we will say that, right, whenever your expected and actual results are not matching, then we will say that test case is failed. So like this, what you have to do is take each and every test case and then you have to execute your test cases. And usually what will happen, we will be executing our test cases with the different environments. You remember we talked about the different environments available. So you may be testing your application in the test environment. That is nothing but it's a local environment. It's a dedicated QA environment in which you will be testing your application. And then you will be doing the testing with your staging environment, which is nothing but your public environment, and you will be doing a round of testing with that environment as well. So whatever may be the environment, see, environment is nothing but simply you can say that it's a server, it's a box. So you are testing the application with that box, with that server. So from the testing point of view, there will not be any changes. Only thing is, here you are testing your application with the different environments, so that what will happen, sometimes you may be getting some environmental issues. Other than that, you will not get any issues. Okay. Like this. So I'm testing this application, and then what is my next test case? Schedule payments. See that user is able to search schedule payments. User is able to search the schedule payment. That means I will go here, and here if you go to your account information, and here when you select your schedule payments, where is that schedule payments? Here. Now if you go to your schedule payments, you should be able to search. See the test case here. See, test case execution is very easy. Testing or test case execution. See, sometimes we will say that testing, sometimes we will say that test case execution. When I say the testing, when I say the test case execution, both are same. And here what we will do is we will take the test cases and then we will try to execute our test cases as it is. That means here what is my test case is search schedule payments. That means right when you're trying to search your schedule payments, it should come as expected. That means here what you can do is you can enter all the information, and when you click on search, then you should get all the scheduled payments within that search criteria. That is important, with the search criteria. So I will give some criteria. Whatever the criteria you have provided, your results will be displayed based on the search criteria. That is important. That means what I will do here, right, I will give some name here, and when I click on search, what will happen? Your results should be based on your search criteria. Your results will be searched on based on your search criteria. So for this, right, now I wanted to know whether this scheduled payments are displaying correctly or not. So what you can do is you can give your some you can give some search criteria and click on submit. See, yesterday this is right uh, one of the payment, right, I initiated. So whatever the payment you initiated, it should come here. It should come here. That means let me create one more payment if possible. So here we don't have any option to create it. Let me create. Is there any possibility? I will be creating a payment here. Create a payment. Create a payment. And say I'm trying to create one schedule payment. See here, right, what is our job, right? When you say that testing and when you're searching your schedule payments, right, you have to make sure that that schedule payment is working correctly. How will you make sure? Let's create one schedule payment, go back to the search and search again. When you search again, you should get your list there. You should get that list. Now what I will do, I will be creating one schedule payment. I want to schedule for so and so date. This is to test schedule payments. Submit. Now right, if you go back to your schedule payments, and now what you can do is you can go back to your search. Now what you can do, you can go back to your schedule payments, and now if you're trying to search, it should display the payment whatever you have done just now. If it is showing, that means your functionality is working as expected. Let me try. Click on search. Now what I will do, I selected a date, right? 9th, right? I selected a date today. See, it is not showing. It's not showing. Which just now we created, okay? we just now created, but it is not showing. See, the payment whatever we have created, it is not showing here. It is not showing. So what we will do is, obviously we will say that it's a fail. Let me create one more if you want. Like I want to cross check. I want to cross check whether it is creating or not. I wanted to create one more so that we will make sure that it is working correctly or not. See, schedule so I'm creating one more payment here so that it should display in my search. Let's see that whether it will work or not. So I wanted to schedule for future date. Let's go with one date. This is to test schedule payment. This is the way to test your application. Schedule payments. Click on submit. When you click on submit, okay, submit it. Okay, submit it. Now it's a schedule payment. You can see that status is schedule. Now go back to your schedule payments and try to search. It should appear. If it is appearing, we are good. So we will select. Just now we created one payment. Yes, it is coming properly. It's coming properly. So what it will do is, like, right, whenever if you are creating any scheduled payment, it should appear in your search. If it is appearing, yes, I am good. That means my test case is pass here. So what is my search? Schedule payments are coming proper. So I will say that this test case is pass. Okay, like this. This is the way to test your test cases. This is the way to test your test cases. Is it clear? Okay. Now, if you want to test, I will show you one more test case. What is this test case? Search for your invoices. That means, like, user can search invoices. That means if you go here, if you go to your invoices, and here user can do search for your invoices. When you click on search, you should get all the invoices here. For that, how to check? You can create an invoice here. 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 Okay. Now I want to create an invoice here, and then I want to create an invoice for so and so amount. This is to test invoices. Click on submit. The invoice was sent. Okay. Now go back to invoice and click on advanced, and when you click on search, then you should get, see, just now I created one amount. See, it is coming properly. That means my search functionality for invoices is working correctly. So this is the way to test your test cases. That means, right, what you are doing, right, you are taking each and every test case, right, working properly. So what I am doing, right, I am trying to test each and every test case, take each and every test case and go to the application, execute each and every test case and see that what is happening with each and every test case. In each test case, if your expected and actual result is matching, then we will say that test case is passed. Whenever the expected and actual result is not matching, then your defect will comes into picture. So this is how to execute your test cases. See, While executing your test cases, if it is pass, that means if your expected and actual result is matching, we are okay. But whenever your expected and actual result is not matching, immediately you need to log a defect. Because you remember, like I told other day, like defect is nothing but it's a deviation from the requirement. Whenever my expected value and actual value is not matching, what do you mean by not matching? That means there is a deviation in your defect. There is a deviation in your requirement. So whenever there is a deviation in the requirement, then it will be called as defect. Defect. So we will be talking about that defect now. Okay. This is how you will execute your test cases. And here, like, right, what will happen is, now you can ask me one question. When I'm finding the defects, where can I report? Where can I report? So if you go to the real time, you may be having very common, like people will use this tool very commonly. People will use this quality center tool very commonly for this test management activity. This is a very common tool like application lifecycle management or quality center. This tool will be used by the team very commonly for your test management activities or bug tracking activities. You have so many tools, like I will be giving you some idea what are all the tools are available. And one more thing I wanted to tell you guys, if you learn one tool, like if you understand what is quality center, how to work with the quality center, if you understand this quality center, that means you should be good with all the other tools. You should be good with all the other tools. So because nothing is there in the bug tracking tool. Nothing. Right? Just right, like say for example, if you're having some issue with the website, what you will do? You will enter your information in a form. Right? You will enter all your information in a form. Similarly, even bug tracking tools also will have the same information. Like what you can do is you can fill all the information and click on submit, so that issue will go to the developer and they will fix the issue. So you are having like so many tools. So let me give you like a couple of tools here. People will use Jira. This is why I am giving these names, right? Probably once you join the organization, if they are using a different tools, don't get any confusion, right? Any tool, even sometimes they will use some in-house tools. That means they will use their own tools for this bug tracking, because bug tracking is very simple thing. So they can use their own tools also. Jira is there, TFS is there. This is nothing but your team foundation server. So these are all the common tools, I can say. These are all the common tools for your bug tracking purpose. That means you are executing your test cases. While executing your test cases, whenever my expected and actual result is not matching, then what I will do? I will log this as a defect in one of the bug tracking tool. You can use Quality Center, you can use Bugzilla, you can use Jira, you can use TFS. That's based on your organization. But here, as part of our sessions, we will be talking in detail about your quality center. Right? We will talk about that quality center. If possible, one of you, like what you can do is you can download your quality center in your laptops. If possible, you can do that, so that it will be helpful for us. What you can do is you just go to Google and then say that download your quality center, and you will get a like 30 days license, 30 days trial version. You can use that 30 days trial version for the learning purpose. Okay, fine. Now, first thing, right? See, what is defect life cycle, right? So now what we are doing, right? We are talking about that defect life cycle. This defect life cycle is part of your software testing life cycle, because you remember, if you remember, go back to your software testing life cycle which we discussed earlier. If we go back here, see, requirement analysis we are done, understanding the requirements, effort estimation we are done. Effort estimation is nothing but this is a lead or manager task. Test planning is done, test case design is done, reviews are done, execution are done, and whenever my test case is fail, then your defect will comes into picture. And one more thing is, sometimes I will say that defect, sometimes I will say that bug. Don't get any confusion. If I say that defect, if I say that bug, both are same. Only thing is, when you join the organization, some people will say that defect, some people will say that bug, right? If you say that, right, both are same only. But usually what will happen is testers will use the term called defect, but developers, they will use the term called bug. Both are same actually. Okay. Now, right, I wanted to talk a little about your defect life cycle, because see, earlier also I told this point. As a tester, as a manual tester, software testing life cycle is very important, especially for a manual tester, writing the test cases and then tracking the defects. These are the very primary responsibilities for any tester. If you are doing your manual testing, and if you know how to write your test cases and then how to track your defects, then you are eligible for any manual tester position. Any manual tester I'm talking. Okay. Now, what is defect life cycle? First question. See, defect life cycle is nothing but the name indicates defect life cycle. That means it's a life cycle for your defect. That means from the beginning of your defect till the closing of your defect, what is happening? That is nothing but your defect life cycle. Defect life cycle is nothing but it's a life cycle for defect which is covering from the beginning of your defect till the closing of your defect. That is called your defect life cycle. So you may be having like so many statuses, like, right, once you report that defect, you may be having so many statuses. I will talk about that, each and everything. So here the point is, when you say that defect life cycle, it is a life cycle of your defects, and which is nothing but from the generation of your defect to closing of your defect. Who is generating the defect? Who is reporting the defect? Testers. So testers, what they will do? They will raise the defect. Let me show you the defect life cycle, how exactly it looks like. So I will show you one of the defect life cycle. This is very commonly used life cycle for any defects. However, right, there may be little change, right? There may be little change in the organization, but overall the concept will be same. Overall the concept will be same. So are you able to see this, or it's not clear? Okay. So here, this is your defect life cycle. This is your defect life cycle. So it can be any tool, right? It can be your quality center, it can be your TFS, it can be your Bugzilla, it can be your Jira, whatever may be the tool. This is the process. Maybe the tools will have the terminology will be different. Like here, right, if I'm saying that fixed, if you go to Jira, they will say that instead of fixed, they will use the term called resolved. So both are same actually. The only thing is the terminology little difference, but the life cycle will not change. So fixed, instead of fixed, people may use resolved. So let's try to understand this defect life cycle. Today we will close this defect life cycle. Now, first thing, once you are logging the defect, then what you will do is you will be logging the defect as a new status. That means what I will do, I found one defect. That means when I'm executing my test cases, one of the test case expected and actual results are not matching. Then what I will do, I will log it as a defect. I will report that as a defect. How to report the defect? I will show you that. How to report the defect, what kind of fields you will fill, everything I will show you that. First, we will try to understand theoretically. So when you are reporting the defect, you will be reporting the defect with the status new. This is the status. So first what you will do is you will report the status, you will report the defect with the status new. So sometimes, right, people may use open, like, right, some people, sometimes what they will do is people write instead of new, they will call it as a open defect. Open defect is nothing but it's a new defect. So once you are finding any defect, right, log it as a new status or open status. That is a by default. That's a first status of your defect. Once you are reporting this defect, Now, right, once you are reporting this defect, right, this is my first state, right, this is my first state. Once I'm reporting this defect, right, it will be assigned to that concerned team member. That means now, right, I found one defect. That means here, if you see here, one of the test cases failing. One of the test cases failing here. Now, if you observe here, right, here our test case is failing. Whenever, right, if you're finding any test case which is failing, right, whenever my test case is failing, what I will do, I will report that as a defect. I will report this as a defect. That means now what is my status of this defect? My status of this defect is new, and then I will be assigning this defect to that particular developer. Or some organizations, right, you may be you will not be assigning the defect. Your team lead will assign. So you or your team lead will assign this defect to that particular developer. Now it will go to the developer. Now immediately will not fix it. Now once you are assigning this defect, immediately you will check, is this defect is valid? Is this defect is a valid defect? That means, right, see, if you simply say that it's a defect, I cannot go there and then modify the code. Not like that. Once you are sending the defect, as a developer, my job is to cross check that is this defect is really valid. So whatever that QA raising the concern, is it really valid? They will check. That means, what do you mean by that valid? So you are saying that you are not getting that search results for so and so. Now what developers will do is, developers also check the same scenario. Developers also check the same test case in their environment. What developers will do is, developers will check the same test case in their environment, and if they are able to reproduce, that means if they are able to regenerate, then what developers will do? They will fix it. Yes, whatever the defect raised by the QA team, it's a valid defect. It's a valid. If it is yes, what they will do? They will fix the defect. They will fix the defect. See, I told you what do you mean by fix. Fix is nothing but what they will do is, they will do some change in the code. Once they are done with the changes, they will send you that next build. That means they will send that modified build. So what they will do, they will do some changes in the code and they will send you that build with the updated code. Now once they are giving that next build, now you cannot immediately close that. Is this defect is really fixed? See, as a tester, right, as a tester, if you are saying that the defect is fixed, I will not close that defect immediately. What I will do is, I will check, is this defect is really fixed by the developer? So as a tester, what I will do is, I will check, is this defect is really fixed by the developer? That means, right, okay, developer is saying that this defect is fixed. Is it really fixed? I will cross check. I will cross check. That means, what do you mean by cross check? That is nothing but your retesting. That is nothing but your retesting. That means I will take this test case again, go to your application, modified build, go to your application, execute the same test case once again. See that you are getting the results this time. If you are getting these results this time, that means you are closing the defect and you will make this test case as passed. If you observe here, what I am doing, I am checking that is this defect is really fixed. If it is really fixed, I will say that close. That means we are done with that defect. Close. However, right, if I am checking that scenario once again, if I am checking the test case once again, still I can see the same issue. Still I can see the same issue. Then as a tester, what you will do is, you will be reopening that defect. You will be reopening that defect. So again, once you reopen the defect, it will go back to your developer again, and then again what developer will do is, developer will check that again valid and he will fix it. Again it will come to the tester and then tester will retest it and close it. This is the process. This is the process of any defect. Now, so this is your defect life cycle. That means in the defect life cycle, what we will do, once we are finding any failed test cases, we will log it as a defect. How to log, I will tell you. We will log it as a defect. Once we log the defect, we will assign that defect to the particular developer. Now once we assign this, then what developer will do? Developer will check that whether this defect is really valid or not. If it is really valid, they will fix the defect. Once they fix the defect, it will come to the tester, right? What do you mean by fix? That means they will be sending you a next build. That means they will be sending you that build with the modified code. Once they are sending this a new build, you will be testing that, you will be retesting your defects, because simply if they are saying that fixed, I cannot simply close it. Is it really fixed? Is it really fixed? If it is really fixed, then I will close the defect. If it is not fixed, I will reopen, again cycle will continue, again it will go to the developer, again he will fix the issue, and so on. And one more point here I wanted to tell you is, right, at the end of the testing, if you are preparing your reports, the reports is very important, right? Usually this test lead will prepare these reports. When you are preparing these reports, and in the reports, right, you will be giving this bug summary, this defect summary you will give. And whenever if you are finding more number of reopen defects, that means it's a bad mark to the developer. See here, right, how many defects are logged? No one will bother, because right, during your stabilization phase, that means right, during your testing phase, yes, you can find the number of defects. That is fine. No one will count that. But if you have any reopen defects, then your manager will ask your developer why you are getting like reopen defects, why you guys are not fixing properly. Because if they are fixing by the developer, means it should be a proper fix, right? If it is not working, we will reopen. So whenever if you are getting any reopen defects, that's a bad mark to the developer. Okay. Now this cycle will continue. Now if you see here, now once you are assigning this defect to your developer, what developer is doing? Developer is checking that whether this defect is really valid, whether this defect is able to reproduce, able to regenerate in my environment. If it is able to generate, then immediately can give a fix. But if developer is not able to generate, if developer is not able to reproduce the same defect, that means you said that defect is like my search function is not working. But when it goes to the developer when he is searching in his environment, it is working properly. Then he cannot fix it actually. So if it is reproducible, then he can easily fix it. Now here is the fight will happen. Here is the fight between your tester and developers. See, people will say, right, every time testers and developers will fight. This is the area where testers and developers will fight a lot. See, if you're saying that one defect and then that defect is reproducible and the defect is regenerate, then developer will not question anything and he will simply give a fix. But if developer is not able to reproduce, then fighting will happen. Developer will say that it's a rejected. Developer, what he will do? See, if he is not able to reproduce, he cannot give it a fix. He cannot fix it, because if you know the problem, then only you can do that. If you don't know the problem, how you can do that? So what developer will do is he will reject it. He will reject it. So whenever if you are getting any defects with the rejected status, then it's a bad mark to the tester. Why you guys are creating unnecessary defects, invalid defects? Okay. So whenever right developer is rejecting the defects, don't agree every time. See that why he is rejecting. Ask him what is the reason. So if he is saying that not reproducible, he is not able to reproduce, then what you can do? You can cross check in your environment, and if you are able to reproduce, immediately reopen the defect. Reopen the defect saying that please follow these steps to reproduce your defect. And if you are unable to reproduce, let me know. I will help you how to reproduce the defects. And also you can set up a call with him and you can set up a meeting with him and show him how to reproduce the defect. This is the process, because this is a common question. If you go to the interviews, people will ask. So you got a situation where a developer is rejected your defect saying that not reproducible. What you will do? What is your strategy? So when when any defect is rejected saying that not reproducible, what I will do, I will cross check in my environment, and if I see that the defect is reproducible, I will send him all the available steps to reproduce along with the screenshots. If still is not agreeing, I will set up a call with him and then I will show him how to reproduce the defect. If still is not agreeing, then out of my hand, I will ask my lead or manager to pitch in to take the decision on this defect. Okay, this is the process. So whenever if they are saying that rejected, see that what is the reason they are giving. It's a valid reason, agree. If it is a valid reason like this is some technical limitation or this is some out of scope for your testing, then agree that and then close it. But if it is not a valid reason and still you are able to see that defect in your environment, don't agree. Reopen and then reassign to the developer. Fine. Sometimes, right, you will be logging a duplicate defect. Don't log duplicate defects because duplicate defects is a bad mark to the tester. Duplicate defects is nothing but whenever if you are logging the same defect again and again, then the defect will be called as duplicate. So before logging the defects, have a look on all the defects because you are not the only person working in the team. So many other team members are also working. Even those people are also logging the defects. So before logging your defect, what you can do is have a look on all the defects raised by the team and then log it. Because if already some other person logged the same defect, and if you are trying to log the same defect again, it will become your duplicate defects. It will become your duplicate defects. Okay, fine. So like this. Then one more. So this is your different status of your defect. Okay. One more thing I wanted to tell you guys. One more point I wanted to tell you is here you can see that, right? Once you are finding any defect and if you are logging your defect, what you can do is you can once you're finding and you log the defect, but you realize that whatever the defect you logged, that's not a valid one. So immediately you can cancel or delete from your end. Instead of deleting by the developer, instead of rejecting by the developers, what you can do is you can cancel or delete from your side. That's the best practice. That means I log the defect. When I log the defect and the defect is not a valid one, I realize that, oh, this defect is not a valid one. Immediately what you can do is you can delete from your end so that it will not be counted. Otherwise, if you not delete that one, it will go to the developer will cross check, and if it is not a valid defect, he will reject it, but it will be counted. So it's always better practice. Once you log the defect, cross check, that is fine. And then sometimes what will happen is once you log your defects to any developer, and due to some reasons like due to some technical constraints or due to some budget issues or due to some resource constraints, due to some timelines, whatever may be the reason, you logged a valid defect. That's a valid defect. That's a genuine defect. But due to some reasons, we are not able to fix that defect in the current release. What we can do is we can postpone this defect to the new releases. That means upcoming releases. We can postpone that defect to the upcoming releases. So that status is called deferred. Deferred is a valid status. That means deferred is nothing but postponing the defects to the future releases. Due to some reasons we are unable to fix in the current release and we are postponing this defect to the future releases. That is called your deferred status. So this is your defect life cycle with the different statuses of your defect. Just have a look on all the status and let me know if you have any queries before moving to the next topic. Let's have a look on this defects life cycle. This is how exactly we will work in the real time. Tool can be anything. It can be Quality Center, it can be Bugzilla, or it can be TFS. As I said, these are all the different tools for your defect tracking purpose which we will use in the current situation. Quality Center, Bugzilla, Jira, TFS, whatever may be the tool you are using, the process will be same. Maybe right there may be slight change in your terminology if you are using a different tools. As I said, like if you go to Jira, here I am saying that fixed, but if you go to the Jira, I will say that resolved, like that. So just have a look on this defect life cycle. Let me know if you have any doubt, because for me test case writing and defect writing, these two are very important, because these are the very primary responsibilities of any tester. Just have a look and let me know if you have any doubt here. Okay, clear? Everything is clear here? Shall we move further? Okay, so yes or no? Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, so you can also have a look here, like right, if you see here, almost same, almost same, like right, whatever I discussed here, the same thing I'm putting in this presentation, both are same. Here, defect is nothing but, as we discussed, right, defect is nothing but, it's a deviation from the requirement. It's a deviation from the requirement. When you are executing your test cases, right, that means when you're testing your application, take all the test cases and then execute on your application and see that each and every test case, what is the actual result for each and every test case. Whenever your expected and actual results are matching, then we will say the test case is passed. Whenever your expected and actual results are not matching, we will say that it is a defect. It's a defect. And like when you're creating your defect, this will be your fields. Again, this fields also, it's not like constant from tool to tool. These fields may vary, but overall, right, if you take that overall picture, these are all the common attributes we will use to create a defect. That means to create any defect, to log any defect in the bug tracking tools, you will be using these attributes. You will be using these attributes. I will show you how to log a defects in your tool, as well as I will also show you how to log a defects in the Excel also. Sometimes what will happen is, like some organizations, they will not have any bug tracking tools to maintain their defects. What they will do is, they will simply maintain their Excel to track the defects. They will maintain the Excel to log the defects and track the defects. I will also show you how to log the defects in Excel, as well as how to maintain the defects in Excel. And also we will, like, while talking about your Quality Center, I will show you how to log the defects in Quality Center as well. Okay, so like over the weekend, if you guys try to install your Quality Center, which is like a trial version, it's well and good, right? Otherwise, I will try to make some alternate. Let's see on that. Okay, fine. So here, right, this is called your right defect, right? And also this is your life cycle. If you see here, right, once you are finding a defect, it's a new or open defect, then you can assign the defect, then it will be fixed by the developer, and then it will be verified. That means it will be retested, and closed. And once you assign the defect, developer may fix it, or they can defer it. I told you, right, deferred is nothing but we will fix in the future releases, or they may reject. Sometimes whatever the defect you raise, that's not a valid defect, then they can reject it. And while doing my retesting, once the defect is fixed by the developer, and when I'm doing my retesting, still the issue is there, then what I will do is, I will reopen the defect. This is your defect lifecycle, and these are all the attributes. To log your defect in your bug tracking tool. Even for Excel also, when you are logging your defect, you may be using these attributes, these kind of attributes. Okay, fine. So I'm not able to talk much today. Okay, so what we will do is, we will stop here, and then if you have any questions, you can ask me, and then next session I will complete this all this what is this bug reports, first point, and then I will talk about few concepts like verification and validation, and entry criteria and exit criteria, like when to stop testing, when to start your testing. I will talk about those things, and also I will be talking about that roles and the what is that characteristics of your test engineer. I will talk about that, and once we are done, then we will jump into the quality center, which is a test management tool. That's the plan. Okay.